This is episode number 286 of the Middle Country Public Library podcast. Hello and welcome. I'm Sal DiVincenzo here in the studio with my fabulous colleagues, Sarah Fade.
Hi.
And Nicole Rambo.
Hello.
How's everyone doing?
Great.
Good. Very good. Very good. You're great. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It's fantastic.
I told you could just play, just record that. Well, you did. So now put it on a button.
Yeah, put on a button.
Next
yes.
time.
Next time we're going to hit that.
Great.
So before we get into our episode, and it is a special episode, I did a focus segment, which I don't do those very often anymore, but I did focus segment. We have an announcement to make about our new guinea pigs. They have names now. Did you know this? Did you know this?
I didn't know I was there.
So their names are Ziggy and Stardust. And
Which one's which?
You know that a young, like 5 or 6 year old came up with those choices, and not someone my age came up with those choices.
I think Ziggy is the brown one and Stardust is the hairy one.
Yeah, come down to see them. They're in the children's department.
Yes,
it's very nice. Yeah,
they're pretty like out of the cage, running around. They're not too shy.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this week we're going to talk Broadway. Now, have any of you seen a Broadway show before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which Nicole? Which one did you see?
Fame.
Fame, really?
I think. I saw Jersey Boys.
Okay.
Sound of Music. I'm not a Broadway person.
Not a Broadway person?
Oh, I didn't see it on Broadway, but I did see Hamilton, but it was in Chicago.
Oh,
That
yeah.
counts.
Very good.
Yeah.
That does count. Yeah, yeah. I
Sarah?
saw Hamilton in Chicago as well.
Didn't you?
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah. Sarah, what about you? Which shows have you seen?
Wicked.
Mm-hmm.
Cats.
Oh.
What's the one?
What's the one with the singing and the music and the dancing?
I went with a bunch of people from work, actually. And I'm sure Elizabeth talked about it because it was one of her favorite
Oh, was it?
with Alice Ripley.
Oh, Next to Normal.
I saw Next to Normal.
Yes, that comes up in this conversation.
Like,
coming up.
how could it not?
I saw the full Monty.
Okay.
That's good. I'm sure I saw Elf.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Was that good?
No. It was all right. I saw a lot of Christmas ones. I saw the one Charles Dickens one.
I was gonna say Nightmare
Yes.
Before Christmas.
Just the Nightmare Before
Christmas
Nightmare-
Story, Christmas Carol.
Yeah,
Christmas
Christmas Carol.
Carol,
Yeah.
I saw that. And that was good, actually. The set was really good with that.
Nice.
I saw Newsies.
Oh, wow.
I saw
Okay.
Newsies off, Broadway and Patchogue.
I was going to say.
I was gonna say at my house when I did it. Did you come watch me sing all the songs?
Off.
I thought you were going to say on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as far away from Broadway you could possibly be.
Well,
So I saw it.
you're going to be surprised when you listen to the following. What's considered a Broadway theater, the theater district, and all this stuff. I had Elizabeth Malafi, who you mentioned, Sarah. She's the one who gets everybody excited about Broadway shows in our department. She came down and she talked to me about Broadway shows and buying tickets and all this good stuff.
Cool.
All right, so here it is. Enjoy. I'm thrilled to have in the studio Elizabeth Malafi. How are you?
I'm great, Sal. How are you?
I'm good. And, we've been talking about this for a long time, and I'm sorry it took 5 years to get you in here to talk about this. But you are kind of like the resident, I would say, the resident expert on all things Broadway.
Well, I wouldn't call myself an expert. I'm more an enthusiast.
Enthusiast that goes to many, 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 many shows.
Sure.
And sometimes to the same show many, 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 many times.
It's like rewatching a TV show. You see something new every time.
That's true. So, so you always have this great advice for our coworkers here about, how to get tickets, how, what shows are good. And I feel like it's about time that we bring you in here for this focus segment to talk about Broadway shows.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. We're going to do some questions. And then at the end, I thought I'd do a little trivia because, might as well.
I'm nervous about that.
You
I
shouldn't.
have
shouldn't.
very specific knowledge.
Yes, but I think I think you'll get all this trivia.
Okay.
So I was thinking about, if I want to go see a movie and I want to research a movie, there's a lot of resources on the internet and whatnot. When it comes to Broadway shows, what would you say the best resource would be to research, what Broadway shows are playing, what they're about, how long they are, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could do it. If you know what show you particularly want, you can always go to that show's website. But I think generally speaking, if you're looking for up-to-date, reliable information, playbill.com is great because they will tell you what shows are playing, what theaters they're in. They also talk about upcoming seasons, what's scheduled for a theater. And within the record of each show, it will tell you who's starring in it. Are they the original cast? Are they not the original cast? And runtime. Runtime's very important. I would recommend once you get a ticket to a show, if you're very interested in that runtime and specific information, that you go to that the website of the show, because they'll tell you, okay, the runtime is this. There's 1 15-minute intermission. There's no intermission. There's an intermission and a pause.
It's really specific like that.
Yeah, they will.
That's great. And Playbill is what you get when you come into the theater,
Yes.
right? It's a magazine, basically, what it is.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Are all the theaters on Broadway though? Or are they spread out? Well, I mean,
They're not.
Okay.
They're actually, it's considered a Broadway theater based on size.
okay.
And I wasn't really sure exactly the size, so I did look that up. So it's considered a Broadway theater if there's 500 or more seats,
Oh,
and if it's located between 41st Street and 54th Street, between 6th and 8th Avenues in Manhattan. So that's the theater district. If you
Okay.
were to look on a map of New York City, that's the theater district. The only one outside of that is the Lincoln Center Theater, which is in the mid-60s, 65th Street. So the Vivian Beaumont at Lincoln Center is considered a Broadway house as
Really?
well. But you will be walking around the theater district and you'll see smaller theaters, second stage theaters there, and those are off-Broadway theaters.
I'm sorry, inside this theater district
There are some off-Broadway
that
theaters.
are just considered off Broadway.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And then some that are off-Broadway. And again, it's based on the size and it's based on the location.
And the location.
Mm-hmm.
That is fascinating. I had no idea with the size
Yeah.
that it was that. I know we talk off mic about how I have this issue with traveling and getting into the city and whatnot. And if the show is not on a Saturday, then I'm pretty much not going. And it's a Saturday at 2:00.
Yeah.
But what do you suggest? What's the best ways to get into the city now?
Honestly, there is no best way to get into the city. I prefer not to have to drive because when I go to a show, I usually go in very early. Even if it's a 2:00 show or an 8:00 show, I'm in by 10 or 11, and I don't want to be tired after the show and then drive home. So I personally always take the train. But I know a lot of people that drive, and one thing I will say about driving is book your parking garage before you even leave your
Oh, you
house.
can reserve it now?
Yes, there's
Okay.
like Park Whiz. There's a bunch of different apps, pretty easy to find in the App Store or Google Play Store if you search parking, and book it ahead of time. One, you'll know that you have a place to go. You're not driving around looking for a parking garage, and you usually get discounts by using it through the app.
Okay. And I assume that their parking garage is very close to the theater district.
Tons, yeah. Yeah.
Great.
And unfortunately, I've never been able to find a discount for the Long Island Railroad aside from buying, a 10 trip. And even that.
And
isn't-
do you generally walk up to that area from Penn Station, or?
I personally walk
Okay.
because, again, I
It's not
just
that
want to
far,
be
right?
there. And
Yeah.
there's all these different stores that I like to stop
Okay.
to on my way. But it's a couple of stops. You can take, I usually prefer to stick to 8th Avenue. It's less crowded. So I'll take the E up to 42nd or even further up to like 51st and then walk down,
Okay.
depending on where the theater is. Yep.
So we have to think about the cost of getting into the city, right? If you're taking the LIRR, if I'm sure now there's some sort of congestion pricing that's happening that's just recently started.
Yeah.
We got parking, we have tolls, all that kind of stuff. But now, I mean, we're in kind of a bad situation with the economy. So I wanted to bring this up. How much do Broadway shows usually cost? And is there a way to get a good price on tickets?
Well, I have paid everywhere from $400 to see a
No.
show.
What show was that you still paid $400 for? Tell me, what was it? What was it?
A very special performance of a musical.
Okay.
So you could pay up to even more than 400. That's not even the highest. But I've also paid 12
Okay.
for a Broadway show. You can get discount tickets. You can get deals. The show that I spent very little on, when they announced it was going to previews, they had a special. I can't remember the $12 show, but we saw a show called Tuck Everlasting, and the book had been written in like 1972. So their tickets for the first 2 weeks of shows was $19.72.
Cute.
I mean, it was a terrible show, but we only paid $19.72. They've had a lot of other, like, you can get deals like that if a show's in previews. If you're very interested in seeing shows, so you want to know about all the discounts, you can just sign up for different newsletters from BroadwayWorld.com, Playbill.com. Even Ticketmaster will send you some codes like that. The other way to do it is by not being picky on what show you want.
Okay.
So I'm never going to be able to give you a discount code for Wicked or Lion King or Hamilton.
Yeah.
But if you're not really picky about the show you want, you can go to the TKTS booth in Times Square. There's also one at Lincoln Center, and you can generally get discount tickets for shows that day.
Now, how does that work? They just have a list and you walk up and they say, this is how much it is? And...
Yes, they'll have a list of shows that have not sold out for the day, and you can get 50% off or more.
Wow.
I've gotten tickets to shows literally an hour before the show.
Really?
A couple of times I've gotten tickets to shows where it says it's sold out on Ticketmaster, but I go to TKTS and I'm able to get a ticket. There's also an app called Today's Tix, Tix, or Today Tix. And you can purchase in advance discount tickets to shows. You can set up alerts so you'll know when shows are going to be available for discounts. One thing I will say about a lot of the discounts is that you're not picking your seats. So you might not know what seat you're in. TKTS, you'll know it as you buy it.
They show
but
you,
it's limited. Today's Tix, you literally will not know until you get there.
What happens? You go to the window to pick up, and then they just give you your tickets. And it has...
With Today Tix, it's actually a person that you meet.
Really?
Yes, they give you your tickets. But I have never had a bad seat.
Okay, is that legitimate?
Yes,
Today Tix?
it's absolutely legitimate.
And what? There's a person in the lobby. Is there a person outside?
Yep.
Okay, interesting.
Yep. You'll get information. They're usually wearing a red shirt that says Today Tix. There's also a new thing I have not used. It's called Broadway Roulette.
Okay.
And you fill out a survey saying, I want a musical, I want a play, I want a comedy, I want a drama, and you'll get a show. I have not used it, so I cannot attest to it.
Okay.
If there's a show you want to see, say you want to see Wicked or you want to see Hamilton, you want to see Book of Mormon, and you're not going to get a discount code, your other option is lotteries or rush tickets.
Yeah, so what does rush mean? Because I've heard that term before.
So rush is basically you go to the theater before the time of the show and you wait for the box office to open and they tell you if they have any tickets. And it's generally a cheaper seat. It's usually a one-off seat here or there. It could be standing room. If the show's sold out, they'll sell standing room.
Is this at any theater they do this, or is it just some theaters?
Every theater has a rush policy. What I recommend before you go to any show, don't assume that because the rush for Wicked happened one way that the rush for Lion King will be another way. I recommend always to go to the websites of these shows before to find out what their rush policy is.
Okay.
But I have rush shows where you have to get there at 5 a.m. in order to have a chance to get a ticket.
That's crazy.
And I've gone to others where you get there at 1 o'clock for a 2 o'clock show.
Okay.
Go up to the ticket counter and say, do you have any rush tickets? And they're like, here you go.
Is this something that people know about, or is it just like people
if
who
it's
are
a
really
popular show, yes.
People who are really into Broadway know about it?
Well, that's how people saw Rent a lot.
Okay.
The other way is lotteries. So they used to do lotteries in person about 3 or 4 hours before a show. You literally went, filled out a little ticket, put it in a bucket, and they would call. Now most of the lotteries are online.
Yeah, digital.
Like Harry Potter and the Cursed Child has a Friday 40.
Okay.
So every Friday they pick people from the lottery, and they pay $40 for tickets for,
Nice.
I believe, a Saturday show.
Okay.
You can find a lot of those lotteries on Today Ticks that I mentioned. And then there's also a lottery.broadway.direct
Okay.
where you can enter a lot of lotteries electronically, which is nice.
Oh, that is nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to be ready to go. Obviously.
Yes. Yeah. You should join the lottery when you know, okay, if I win the lottery, I know that I can get to the train station
Yeah,
or get in
and
my car and go.
go,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Unfortunately, because we're not in the city, we
It's-
do
yeah.
have to have a little more pre-planning.
Interesting. That's
Yes.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, what is a typical theater like in the city? Because I've only been to a few shows, and I know it's not like a movie theater. Obviously, it's very different. So, from your experience,
It's very different. They're
Yeah.
old and they have stairs.
okay.
And sometimes those stairs are very steep.
All right.
If the theater has not been renovated, the bathrooms are tiny.
Mm-hmm.
The seats can be small. Yeah, sometimes it's not pleasant.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Would you say that it depends on the production as far as the upkeep of the theater, or do you think it's really up to the theater?
I
Like,
think
if
it's
you went
more
to,
the
like,
theater.
yeah, so if you went to like the Winter, I don't even know if it's Winter Garden Theater or American Airlines Theater, whatever that theater is now, what it's called, but you go to one of these theaters, and if it's, I would assume if someone puts their name out on the marquee outside, that it's going to be in good shape.
Well, it could be in good shape,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean the seats are comfortable and they can't build a bathroom with 100 stalls and they can't put in an elevator.
Do you feel? I'm not saying do you personally feel claustrophobic, but do you feel that it's tight and that people who are maybe a little claustrophobic, they would not be comfortable in a place like that, or is it?
I
Depend.
think that if that's something that concerns you, you should absolutely look. I believe it's Seat Guru or
Okay.
like a Seat Geek
Mhm.
will show you a view of your seat.
Mhm.
I find that the worst seats are, unfortunately, the cheap last row of the balcony seats that you can
Yeah.
get for like $35. Personally, I try to always get an aisle. I try to always, if I'm getting a really cheap seat just because I want to see the show and I don't know how it is,
Yeah.
if I get the last row of the balcony and I feel uncomfortable, I can just stand back there. So I'll do that, something like that.
Okay. And temperature, from your experience, is it always hot? Is it always cold? Or
I'm usually comfortable temperature-wise. The people I'm with are cold,
okay, yeah.
so they're
And
wrong.
What should people expect going to a show? Like, is there dress code? Is there a certain
I mean,
culture that we should be aware of? Is it mostly tourists? You know what I'm saying? Like,
it really depends on the show.
okay,
One thing I will say is, and this is one thing that drives me crazy when I'm in a live theater audience. People forget that there are real people on stage and it's not a movie. So if you're like slurping your drink and just eating a lot of snacks, if that's what you're really focused on, or if you're sitting in the front row not paying attention, I get so angry because in my head, I'm like, those people can see you. They are
Yeah.
working so hard. Even in the worst show, 99.9% of the time, those actors up there are giving it every single thing they have. And they can see some of the people.
Yeah.
Not all the way in the back, but
No, no.
certainly that front
the
row.
front couple rows, yeah.
So I think you have to have respect for the show. As far as dress code, I personally think you should dress nicely. You don't have to dress up,
Yeah, but
but
still,
I wouldn't,
Yeah.
but they're not going to stop you from coming in.
Yeah.
As far as what the experience is like, it really depends on the show. If you go to Wicked, it's probably a lot of tourists.
Yeah.
People that are coming to the city and seeing one show a year want a sure thing.
Sure.
But I saw 6 on Broadway. It's about the wives of Henry VIII.
Okay.
And it's written like a concert. So the crowd was going crazy. It was like you were at a concert.
Oh, wow.
They were like yelling back. And I didn't love the show, but I had such a great time because of the people that were around me.
Yeah.
There's a new show by David Byrne called Here Lies Love. The set, it takes place in a disco. So they took the seats out of a lot of the theater, and a lot of the seats are standing up, and you're at a disco the whole
my
time.
goodness.
They do have seats now. I saw it
Yeah.
off Broadway, and there were not seats. So it really depends on what show you're going to.
Excellent. And the demographic, you would say?
I mean, it's mostly
Is it
older
people. Yeah.
people. But again, it depends on the show. Six was a lot of younger
yeah.
people.
Okay, but you shouldn't feel. I guess what I'm asking is that you've never felt uncomfortable being at a show and thinking, "Oh my goodness, I'm the youngest person here. This is going to be."
I will tell you that I went to see Company at Lincoln Center Theater, starring. Oh my God, I'm blanking on Doogie Howser's name.
Oh,
Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah.
Stephen Colbert. Like it was an all-star cast.
Yeah.
I saw a matinee of a different show and then Company, and I just wasn't thinking you're going to see a concert at Lincoln Center. And I felt very underdressed and very uncomfortable. And that's the only time. I just want to say I have a lot more to say about discounts that I forgot to say, but I would love to include links in the show notes
Absolutely.
if possible.
Yeah, definitely.
To where people could get discount tickets, especially
Absolutely.
if you're younger, because there are a lot of discounts for people that are younger to get them into theater. And so they have things like Lincoln Center has link ticks for people under 30, and Roundabout Theater Company actually has something called Hip Ticks for people between 18 and 35, and you can get $20 tickets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll definitely put those in the show notes. So this is great information that you've given us, but I know that our listeners are really more interested in knowing about your personal experiences. But I will say that, again, from knowing you for so long, that you do go to many shows, and I feel like it's almost every other week you're in the city seeing a show. So the question that I have for you is, how many shows have you seen?
Oh, I wouldn't be able to count. I would say pre-COVID, I was seeing 35, 40 shows a year.
Wow.
Post-COVID, I'm slowly getting back to it,
Yeah.
but
What is the most times, approximately, can you say that you have seen the same show, like a repeat
Sal,
of the same
you know
show?
the answer to this question.
But my listeners don't.
I will say that many years ago, I didn't like the idea of seeing a show more than once was just seemed ridiculous to me. And then I saw a show that I just fell in love with, and I did things like the lottery. So I was able to see it from the front row for $40. I was able to get discount tickets when possible. So I did see that show on Broadway about 35 to 40
Wow.
times. But
In addition to all the other shows you were seeing that year.
yes. But I will say that seeing a show more than once, now again, I've never gotten to that level, but I have seen shows 3 or 4 times, and it amazes me how much more you see every time you see a show. It's
It's
just,
interesting, yeah.
it's incredible.
Well, it's kind of overwhelming, right? Of the big, huge,
is.
gigantic stage. You're in this theater. You're seeing all these people that, like you said, they're real people. They're human
Yes.
beings that are in front of you, and they're doing their thing. It's not a flat screen or whatever like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you see a different cast, one play that I saw called Other Desert Cities, it was really wonderful. We saw it with one cast, and it ended, and we're like, okay, I think I know what that ending meant. And then we saw it with another cast, and the last scene, they did something completely different. We still talk about it. We were just talking about it this weekend, and we're like, that makes the show completely different.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. So, what was your best Broadway experience?
I mean, there's really so many. I think if you have the opportunity and you find a show that you love and you could go to like its last performance or the last performance of one of the stars of the show, those are always special experiences. So if I had a day to think about it, this answer might be different, but on the top of my head, in 2017, friends of mine and I went to see the final performance of The Color Purple
Okay.
musical. It was not the original cast, it was the new one. And the star of that was Cynthia Erivo. First of all, the audience is electric. People are so excited to be there. People were dressed up. We saw famous people, and people just were so excited to be there. They wanted to talk to you. Like, what's your favorite song? Like, oh my gosh, why are you here? How many times did you see it? So it was exciting. And there is the big song in the second act. Cynthia Erivo was singing it. It's called I'm Here. I mean, it packs a punch. It's very emotional. She got about halfway through it and then literally was crying and couldn't continue.
Wow.
And the entire audience was just like, we got you, Cynthia. Come on, you can do it. It's actually, if you search it on YouTube, you can see it because I believe at the soundboard they were recording it. So it's a great recording.
Yeah.
And then she's just like, okay, I can do it. And like she finished and it was like, I'm getting chills thinking about it. It was just an amazing, amazing experience. Wow. I mean, if you've been to any sort of live performance, a concert, anything, just that feeling of being with people that are into something as much as you are is just great.
Yeah. There's an equal amount of emotional connection, I feel like.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a certain type of person, I think, who goes to a show that really appreciates it. That's not a tourist. And those are the people that you make relationships with in the audience. So, this is my last question for you before we get to the trivia is, what's your personal advice that you might have for someone who wants to see as many shows as possible like you do, but still like get the best seats and maybe not break the bank? Well, I know you've talked about things, tips and tricks, but from you personally, from your experience, what has been your go-to?
I think you have to expand your thought of what you want to see on Broadway. Mm-hmm. You have to be like, okay, well, it's okay if I don't see Wicked, or I'm going to see Wicked, but I know I'm going to spend $150 on a seat for that. I know I'm going to spend this much to see Hamilton, but I want to see more shows. So what's in previews? What doesn't have reviews yet? So I don't know that the Back to the Future, the musical, is in previews. Nobody knows if it's good or not. So go to previews. Generally, those are discount tickets. I encourage you to see plays. A lot of times people don't want to see plays. They want to see musicals. There are plays out there that will give you chills and you will not stop thinking about ever. So consider plays. And I highly recommend that you consider off-Broadway, nonprofit theaters. I saw Hamilton at the Public Theater in 2015 in a tiny theater. My ticket was $60. Wow. I won the lottery once for $20. Go to those small theaters. One, they're usually really beautiful and comfortable, much smaller. I saw Here Lies Love, which is now on Broadway at the Public. So you can see things before they get to Broadway. Maybe they never get to Broadway. A much smaller theater. Sometimes inexpensive. They also have lotteries and discount tickets. So I think expand your idea of Broadway and theater.
Yeah. I'll never forget, you were talking up Hamilton before it was even like a thing. I remember you coming in after seeing it and saying, this is amazing. This is amazing. You have to go see it. This is amazing. And we're like, okay. And then you went back and you saw it again, and you're like, no, you don't understand. And then it was like, and then we finally together, you and I actually got to see it we were at a conference in Chicago, and we saw it before the conference, and it was amazing.
Excellent.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, Elizabeth, it's time for the trivia.
I'm afraid.
Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. You're probably going to get every single one of these questions. You might have even mentioned some of these shows in your discussion here. Okay, you ready?
I got it.
You definitely got it. Okay. So which show is this? We'll start you off super easy. Jimmy Ward might even be able to get the answer on this one. And he's only into Gettysburg. Okay. Which show is this? Two rival teenage gangs struggle for control of their neighborhood on the Upper West Side. Yes, West Side Story. Very good. Let me finish the question. There's no points for getting it right away. Okay. This Tony Award-winning musical was conceived by the creators of the animated show South Park.
Book of Mormon.
That's correct. Yes. Surratt would probably want front row seats to this 1985.
Sunday in the Park with George.
Pulitzer Prize.
Oh my God, one
musical.
of the best. One of the best.
All
I
right.
saw it with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. See, you get so far 3 for
Off
3.
Broadway and on Broadway.
Pop group ABBA's Benny and Bjorn wrote the music for this 1980s musical that yielded a top 10 hit for English singer Murray Head.
Oh, is it Chess?
Yes.
Which is coming back to Broadway.
Is it coming back to Broadway?
Yes, it's the Broadway community's a buzz because that is a cult favorite. Chess.
One Night in Bangkok.
yeah.
Great song. All right, this I really hope you get this because we've spoken about this before. This mega pop singer's Broadway musical, The Last Ship, set sail in New York for the last time in 2015.
Sting.
That's right, Sting, which I got to see and I loved it. It was a great show. This musical, if you don't get this, you're leaving right now. Are you ready? I swear, if you do not get
I'm
this,
so afraid.
I'm literally not even going to stop. You're just going to
Okay.
say. This musical centers on a mother who struggles with worsening bipolar disorder
Next to normal.
and the effects that managing her illness
In my
has on her
top
family.
2 favorite musicals.
And the one that you
is Next
saw
to Normal.
35 times.
Well, I saw it like 45
45 times, yes.
Just you asked on Broadway.
Folks,
how many times?
she saw this show so much, the Tony Award-winning actress became friends with her.
I kept winning the lottery and being in the front row.
The Tony Award-winning actress invited herself to a house where Elizabeth was hanging out with her. Okay. When this play first premiered on Broadway in 2018, it was so long that it required to be viewed in 2 completely separate parts, an afternoon and evening showing. It has since been reworked for the U.S. and is now 3.5 hours. What show is this?
Oh my gosh, I almost said I was like Angels in America, Inheritance. No, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
And I'm disappointed I didn't see it before they cut it.
Well, you can go to London and see it in the 2 parts. 'Cause
Okay, I'm gonna
those
go
folks
there.
over there, yeah. Okay, this is one I don't know if you're going to get. This was one of my tricky ones, but you probably get it anyway. Based on the 1967 film of the same name, this musical tells the story of a small town girl who comes to New York City to marry for money instead of love, a modern aim in 1922 when women were just entering the workforce. And I will
It's
give
a
you
musical.
yes, and I will give you a hint. Sutton Foster.
Oh, it's not Anything Goes.
No.
Oh, the Early Modern Millie.
That's right.
Thank you for giving me that name because I never would have gotten it.
And you'll definitely get this one. This Oprah Winfrey produced 2005 Tony Award winning Best Revival of a Musical.
Color Purple. It's
Yes.
going to be they filmed
It's going
a
to be
movie
a film on
Yeah.
Christmas Day. It's coming out.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
Guys,
Yep.
go see it. It's
Yep.
incredible.
Okay, here's another one that you might or might not get. Long Island-born musician and radio host Seth Rudetsky created this 2016 musical that delivers earthquakes, tidal waves, infernals,
Yes.
and unforgettable 70s hits.
Disaster.
Oh my God, you got it.
Isn't it called Disaster?
Disaster is right, yes. With hits like Knock on Wood, Hooked on a Feeling, Sky High, I Am a Woman, and Hot Stuff. Yes, it is Disaster.
I didn't realize he was from Long Island.
Yes, North Woodmere. Oh, what a beautiful morning to take the Surrey out with the fringe on top.
Oklahoma. I saw a really amazing pared down production of that.
Okay.
Yes. It was like you literally they had picnic tables and they served you chili during
I think you've
intermission.
mentioned this before. Yeah, that's crazy. All right, now finally, if there's any question here that you might get wrong, because you've got them all right so far, 11 out of 12. This is the last one. What is currently the highest grossing Broadway musical of all time? Is it A, Hamilton, B, Wicked, C, The Lion King, or D, Phantom of the Opera? And I will tell you, a lot of these numbers are really close.
I really don't know. If I had to guess just by when I look at Broadway grosses every once in a while, I want to say The Lion King.
You're right.
Am I?
You got 112 out of 12 of these questions, and you were worried before you came in here.
Well, I'm always amazed at
The
Lion
Lion
King
King. Yeah.
because
It's one of the longest running, actually.
yes,
And it's done 1.85 billion. It's followed by Wicked, which is 1.5.
okay.
Phantom, which is 1.3, and finally Hamilton, which is 849 million. in that group that I've
Yeah, and Hamilton's only from 2016.
Now
so-
Hamilton had a huge Hamilton is going to probably beat those eventually because I don't know how much longer Lion King is going to be on Broadway, but we'll see.
Yeah.
It seems to be going very well,
I haven't heard anything.
and that's Julie Taymor did that, and
Yeah.
everybody doesn't talk about Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. I was looking to see if
Nobody talks about it.
I was actually looking to see if we had that soundtrack, and we don't. But anyway, so every
It's called
single
a cast recording.
yes, I'm sorry, cast recording. Every single one of these musicals or shows that I mentioned in the trivia we have here at the library.
Oh,
for you.
awesome. I really highly recommend Sunday in the Park with George and The Color Purple.
Yeah, it's either going to be a script, because we do have scripts. It's going to be the soundtrack or something like that. But yeah. So Elizabeth, it's been a pleasure chatting Broadway with you. I'm
Loved
glad
it.
you finally were able to come down and talk about it.
Thanks for indulging
And
me.
absolutely. And hopefully we'll get you on next time for another one of your obsessions. We'll pick one and then roll with it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And there you go. I've only seen a few shows, but it sounds very exciting.
Yeah.
So all that
It's a
good stuff.
Font of knowledge.
She's a font of knowledge, absolutely. So that does it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to older episodes or read our show notes, visit our website, mcplpodcast.com. Only 40% of the people who watch us on YouTube are actually subscribed.
Watch in quotes.
In quotes.
Listen.
Listen to us. Watch. Well, no, also watch some of our videos that we post on there.
Sure.
So it's actually only 40%. So we're asking you, if you are listening on YouTube or if you watch any of our videos on our channel, to please hit the subscribe button. We're over 1,100 right now. It would be great if by the end of 2025 we
We're at 1101.
we can get up there. Yeah. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. And as Nicole mentioned many moons ago, if you are on a iTunes or Spotify or one of those apps, give us a review, right?
Yes, 5-star review.
5 stars. Yes. Don't bother doing any other review unless it's 5 stars.
That's what they say. Yes, also in podcasts. But you ever go to some place and buy something and they're like, if you're gonna rate me, you literally have to give me 10 stars or otherwise I get in trouble. Do you believe that?
No.
I don't know. I don't know if you get in trouble. There are a lot of places, especially
No,
on.
you them. They get in trouble.
Oh, they get in trouble.
Yeah, they're like, if you don't
Where is this?
I don't know. I bought something. I bought a car. I don't know. The guy I bought it was a decent purchase. I
Yeah.
don't remember what it was. Well, whatever I did. But he was like, if you're going to rate, just please only give me 10 stars.
Yes. Just please only give me the most stars.
He's like, otherwise just don't do it at all. And I was like, okay.
I would then be like 1 star.
He's like, otherwise you get in trouble. I was like, all right.
It's like that on the cruise, actually, on the Disney cruise. At the end of the cruise, they go, you're about to get a survey for the end of the cruise, and we ask you, to please make sure that you say how excellent we are.
Yeah.
And if we weren't excellent, then please tell me right now what I could do to make this an excellent experience for
Keep
you.
it to yourself.
Yeah. So,
Well, that's not bad, though, because then they can kind of rectify it right there.
yeah. Yeah, at the end of the cruise, after everything has not been excellent.
That's how they do that with everything. Like, I was, after my surgery, you're like, can you rate the
Give 5
nurses?
stars.
Yes, yeah.
And I was like, you
No.
really want me to rate the nurses? I'm like, they were awful. And they were like, no, don't say that. I'm like, okay.
Yes, so that's why we say if you give us 5 stars. No, be honest and and give us a review, and we greatly appreciate it. Help us with that algorithm that everybody's talking about. So once again, thank you so much for listening. For Sarah Fade and Nicole Rambo, I'm Sal DiVincenzo. We'll see you on the next show.